Welcome to the Santa Fe Children's Museum. I'm Oliver Greer, and we are about to see my incredible insect collection. Okay, first up in the collection are crickets. We have some giant tropical crickets, some local Santa Fe crickets, the carnivorous meat-eating cricket from Pakistan, and a giant cricket from the island of Borneo. Over here are a bunch of exotic praying mantises. Down here is one of the world's biggest. This is Macromantis hyalina. It's over 8.5 inches long. And up here is a full-grown male of Bulby pygmaea, the world's smallest mantis. And next up, around the corner here, we have katydids. Again, tropical exotic ones, some local Santa Fe katydids. You can see my hand next to this monster, Macrolivestes corporalis, in the middle. Let's get up close here for a minute. I want to point this out. I've been asked thousands of times if this is a deformity. This is actually the mechanism by which the male katydid sings. He rubs his legs together underneath the wings when they're folded up over the body. This is the tympanic membrane that amplifies the signal and enables them to make their chirping sounds in the jungles. Over here, we have cicadas. We have tiny tree and thorn hoppers, and down here are lantern bugs. And get up close for a couple of these. There's some really outrageous ones. They're called Greer'S, and they have the most amazing variety of shapes and spines and curves on their heads. The heads are actually transparent membranes. They serve no other function. They do not light up, but they're called lantern bugs because they resemble the beautiful paper Chinese and Japanese lanterns. Up here is my biggest katydid, a female Macrolivestes corporalis. Later on, we're going to take her down, open it up, and actually measure her and show you guys just how big she really is. Up here is my grasshopper set. This is a small 12 by 18 inch case, but you can see I still have a couple of monster grasshoppers. And right here at my fingertip is a full-grown pygmy grasshopper from the Philippines. And now over on the west side of the museum is my 6.5 foot tall spider and creepy crawly case. The irony is that I've been afraid of spiders since I was born, but the fear compels me to collect, and my collection is not complete without them. So let's get up close now, and I'll point out a couple of ringers for you. Here's an 8.5 inch female tarantula from South America, one of the Goliath bird eaters. Here's another Goliath bird eater. Here's a giant African burrowing tarantula. Notice how the hind legs are longer and thicker than the front legs. Up here is Liphistius, the rarest tarantula in the world. It's a trapdoor burrowing tarantula. I've got a crappy specimen of a brown recluse, but this was the only one I could get because they're not really popular with collectors. They are so dangerous. These are whip spiders. These are giant ants. Here's the African driver ant, carpenter ant, the Borneo giant forest ant, and the Dinoponera from South America. And this whip spider up here has a leg span of about 20 inches. I will show you a larger one later on and actually measure it. Here are some very tiny insects to go along with the big ones. Right here at my fingertip is the first thing I found when I was 10 years old, a spider-hunting Hemipepsis wasp in California. This got me started down the road to perdition and led to all the rest of the collection. Right here is a giant queen termite with about 10,000 dried eggs inside of her. And let's get to the top of this column here. All these small spiders, small scorpions, and centipedes, and everything down to the bottom of this case are local insects from Santa Fe, with the exception of that wasp from California. But this represents everything that we have in this area. Over here is a cockroach about the size of my hand. And then let's go over here to show you an absolute ringer. This is Androctonus australis, the deadliest scorpion in the world. There is enough venom in a living scorpion to kill 24 adult people. Up here are some giant spider-hunting wasps. And we have, of course, some millipedes and some giant roly-polies. And then there are tropical wasps and bees and flies all the way down to the bottom. Okay, let's move on over to the biggest thing in the collection. This is a 24-inch whip spider. I'm just showing you with my fingers for now, but there will be a separate video with me measuring this so you guys can actually see it is 2 feet across. Over here, another giant millipede, giant scorpion, giant centipede, Theraphos blondi male, giant crab spider, and an 8-inch Nephila or weaving spider. Over here are some giant Hymenoptera, a 5.5-inch leg span Pepsis wasp, a 3.25-inch wingspan carpenter bee from Malaysia, a 2-inch wingspan orchid bee from South America, a giant African robber fly, my biggest ant specimens, and a parasite wasp from Pennsylvania. Right here are my stick insects. This is a 3.5 by 5 foot case. This is some of nature's most remarkable camouflage. They resemble bamboo and various thorny twigs out of various thorny bushes from the tropics. These pink insects right here, this is their actual color. And I'm proud to say that not a single specimen in my collection has been painted, lacquered, airbrushed, stained, varnished, or touched up in any way. Their colors and patterns are exactly as they are in nature. All I've done is spread them out and pin them. Over here are my tiniest stick insects. And then here are my giant sticks. And again, you can see I've got a couple of ringers here. And again, we're going to open this up and videotape separately the measurements of these giant specimens. And now, on the east wing of the museum, we have the world's tiniest dragonfly, Nanophia pygmaea. Again, you can see my fingertip. It's barely bigger than that. And that's a full-grown adult. And then down here are the world's biggest, Petalurgia ingentissima from Queensland. They're about 6-inch wingspan and 5 inches on the body on the female. Enormous and rare specimens. Over here is a 6-foot tall case of dragonflies and damselflies from Santa Fe and all over the world, South America, Africa, and Malaysia, including the world's biggest damselfly, Megaloprepus correlatus from South America. Over here we have an 8-foot tall case of tailed moths, commonly called luna moths. The actual luna moth is right here, Actias luna, paired off with Actias artemis from Malaysia. This is the crown jewel of all my butterflies and moths. This is Actias japae from Vietnam. This is the rarest and most beautiful moth I've ever seen. A lot of people think it's just supernal compared to all others, and I don't argue with that for a second. This was a really important acquisition for me. They're from Vietnam at the Chinese border. Extremely hard to obtain. This is Greer'S Isabella from Spain, the stained glass moon moth. And we have some South American tailed moths called Copiopteryx, African Eusteras, and the rest of these are all Actias and Argema from Malaysia and Africa. Over here is a super long-tailed Eustera from Africa. The tails are about 9.5 inches from head to the tip. These are my biggest butterflies, Ornithoptera Goliath Procus male and Titan female. Notice the complete difference between the male and female. They call that sexual dimorphism. Over here are some monster moths, Cosmocera hercules, male and female from New Guinea. This is Thysania agrippina, the owlet moth from South America. And this is a pair of Atticus Caesar and Atticus atlas from the Philippines and Malaysia. And this Atticus atlas female is about 11 inches across. Here's a couple of tiny cerambicids, flower beetles from Malaysia, Gerania boschi. They're so cool, I gave them their own display case. These are the world's biggest beetle species, Xixuthrus heros, Titanus giganteus. I have one of each. Let me get over here, hold my hand out. This is about 6 inches long. This one's about 4 3/4. But again, we're going to take these apart and measure them. This is the centerpiece of the collection. This is 8 feet high, 5 feet wide, and about 500 pounds worth of display case containing over 1,200 moths, beetles, and butterflies. There are local butterflies from Santa Fe on the far right. There are beetles from Santa Fe in the very bottom down here, which I found on Bishop's Lodge Road. These are all roadkill, dead, didn't have to catch or kill any of them. And then these are all moths from Santa Fe on the far left. And they're arranged so that the moths are on the left, beetles in the center, butterflies on the right. This is the rarest butterfly in the world, Ornithoptera meridionalis from Papua New Guinea. These used to be endangered, but they are now being farmed on a private butterfly ranch, so collectors like me can get them legally without any black market involvement. Over here are a couple more relatives of Xixuthrus haros. These are much more common and readily available. These are some of my giant beetles. And again, we're going to open this up and measure the antenna and the legs. This is Chalcosoma caucasus, Megasoma actaeon, Macrodontia cervicornis, Acrocinus longimanus, Batocera hercules, Dynastes hercules, and Goliathus giganteus from Africa. And then finally, the last of the 30 display cases are some giant stag beetles from Malaysia. And we've got a couple of Cyclomatus, a Xixuthrus, a Prosopicoilus, and a Dorcas antaeus. So this concludes the brief tour of Oliver Greer's insect collection at the Santa Fe Children's Museum. Please look us up at www.santafechildrensmuseum.org or come by in person and see this collection for yourself.